Welcome back to Jump Scare. I'm Betty.
Yeah, I'm Chad.
This week we covered 1999's Bats.
The full moon of October is known as the Hunter's Moon. This October, the hunters will be out in force, filling the hungry sky. And you are the midnight snack.
So we have Dina Myers, who plays Dr. Casper. We also know her from
Birds of Prey, Starship Troopers. She's been in a lot of things.
Starship Troopers.
There's a couple of reasons people remember her from that one.
Lou Diamond Phillips as Sheriff Kimsey.
From everything. If you saw a movie made in the 80s or 90s, Lou Diamond Phillips was probably in it. You also got Bob Gunton, who you'll recognize as the evil warden from The Shawshank Redemption. I think that's his most famous thing, although he's been in tons of shit too.
Yeah, these people, I mean, Lou Diamond and definitely Bob Gunton have done some stuff.
So this movie was just kind of picked it at random because we were just looking at movies that came out in October, and we saw this one and thought, have I ever seen this? It turns out I had probably seen one of the other numerous Bat movies that were made around this time, but I had not seen this one.
I also had never seen the film, which is shocking. And if I did see it, it totally went under the radar for me, and I totally forgot about it.
Well, so you start off this movie with, you know it's going to be bad when you see the kids making out in the car out in the middle of the makeout point that all these small towns seem to have. But I love how that when people go to the makeout point, it's always, well, not always, but it's usually deserted except for them. But everybody knows that's the spot you go. But they're the only car there. So, of course, the Bats come immediately. They pretty much trash the car and eat the couple. So you know these Bats are bad news right away. And just like everything in the 90s or early 2000s, spoiler, they're mutated Bats. Genetically enhanced Bats. Because genetic enhancement, bad.
The Bob Gunton character.
Yeah.
He's the one
he's the evil bat scientist.
Evil bat scientist. And Dina Myers is the one, Dr. Casper.
She's the good bat scientist.
She's going to come in and save the day. Surprisingly, this movie made its money back.
Yeah, it made a lot of money, actually.
And go ahead.
Which goes to show you there wasn't a whole lot else coming out in 1999 that was going to be drawing people in on Halloween.
Yeah, it came out October 22nd. But I have to say, 1999 was a pretty, I'm not going to say a strong horror year, but you had Sleepy Hollow come out, Stir of Echoes, House at Haunted Hill, The Haunting. So I was going to say there's been some activity, and then I thought about Paranormal Activity. My brain is wired very strangely. So it was one of those movies, The Mummy, which is not a horror movie, but there had been a lot of 1999, I think, was a pretty decent year for horror.
But I think there had been a lot of low budget horror that year. It seemed like people were looking for something that might be a little more kids are going to be eaten, people are not going to have a happy ending. But that turned out not to be what this was. But I think that's what people had the idea it might be.
If I would have watched this in the 90s and had a strong memory of it, I don't know if I would have feel differently than I do today. I thought the movie, it was fine. I mean, it wasn't my favorite movie. I don't like bats, and I felt like there was more opportunities because they genetically enhanced these bats. These bats had a kind of slight gremlin-esque behavior because they were
yeah, they did.
They had funny moments, and they did weird fucking things that were fucking comical. They were just very comical. There's one part of the film, okay, where the bats are on the roof and they're planning, communicating and planning with each other how they're going to rescue their friend. That scene is freaking hilarious because it's what the fuck are those bats doing?
Yeah, and there's another scene where one of the bats gets captured, and they're like, oh, well, we're going to put a tag on it and release it, and then when it goes back to their bat cave, we'll be able to find it. So then the other bats see it fly away, and the two main bats are like, no, that's not happening. They just fly down, murder this bat, and throw the tracking device back at the people and leave. You're like, God damn, these are some smart bats.
These bats also laugh.
Yes.
They laughed as they escaped when they were getting shot, okay? By bullets, okay? Because they could have been getting shot. They could have been getting shot by, like, tranquilizers, because we got to save the bats. Because these were just not any ordinary bats. These were, like, some fancy-ass, like, those big-ass fucking bats that are, like, probably the...
Flying fox, they call them.
Yeah, flying fox bats. Thank you, bat expert. Or a person that paid attention to that part of the movie. So they were huge. I would die if I saw a bat like that. I'm becoming like some kind of animal that's gonna like burrow a hole like into the fucking ground and disappear. It would be very cartoonish because I would have to get away from that. Lou Diamond does not give 3 fucks about Dr. Cass when she arrives. He questions her credentials right off the bat.
She's a woman.
She's a doctor woman, okay?
So she doesn't know anything about bats.
No, okay, the Dr. Red is in bat anatomy. Never mind. So that whole scene where he's just, because it's just not like one time. It happens a couple of times, like right at the beginning when they first meet.
Oh, the casual sexism of the 90s.
And my first thought was, who the fuck does this sheriff think that he is? He thinks he's John Cassavetes in the freaking Incubus, who was a sheriff and a doctor? Like, how dare you, sir? Unless you have these John Cassavetes freaking credentials, get the fuck out of here.
Well, like, I love, it's the standard thing they did in all these movies in the 90s. They did in Jurassic Park and a bunch of others where there's the one bat scientist in the country that can help them. So they send a helicopter out to go pick him up and fly him back to Texas in this helicopter. And get there, and then as soon as they get there, everyone's like, who the fuck is this? Who the fuck is this bitch think she is? She thinks she's a fancy bat doctor? Okay, you sent a special helicopter to go get her, bring her ass back here, and then you're like, I don't know, do we need her help? Yeah, I think you do. Because your, like, small town, rural ass, Lou Diamond Phillips is sitting around there with a pistol trying to shoot bats out of the sky.
Smoking cigars every 5 seconds.
Yeah, at the very least, if you're going to shoot a big flock or crowd of bats, whatever they call them, get a shotgun with buckshot. Even the biggest bat there weighed 5 pounds. Some buckshot will take them down. But no, they're all trying to shoot handguns at the bats. They're trying to go for headshots for the bats as they're flying away 50 feet in the air at night.
There are some scenes of the movie where just I thought the acting, and I'm not expecting like Academy Award winning acting for a movie that's called Bats, but can we just do a little better? There was just so many scenes where like Dina Myers was so dead set that the bats didn't do it, that it becomes comical. Like how terrible the acting is. And I felt like maybe, was it a little forced between her and Lou Diamond Phillips at some point? Like at some points of the movie where it's just like a little
tension there, like they didn't like each other. Yeah,
we may just totally have read into that, but I didn't feel that there's any chemistry per se between the two, because isn't that the whole thing? You got the fancy doctor coming in who's all city and business and fancy, then she's coming into like the little town and the sheriff is very masculine and manly. He's smoking cigars.
This is also the plot of every Hallmark Christmas movie. The busy businesswoman who doesn't have time for love comes into town, and the sheriff or the plumber or whatever that's been widowed recently has to teach her about love. And that's what they're trying to do here, but you can tell these two don't like each other so much that it just doesn't work.
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to go back. I'm going to correct you, sir. How dare you, reference the Hallmark movies. In the Hallmark movies, now, it's gotten to the point where you can't even get the plumber or the sheriff or whatever to fall in love with you. You motherfucking have to get someone out of time. Like, you gotta get a motherfucker from the 1700s to come over into 2020 and you fall in love with him. That's how intense, the love is, that it's transcending through fucking time.
I'm just waiting for the Hallmark, the Christmas with COVID movie, because it's coming. They're making it right now. They're like, we can hire
COVID.
They're like, we don't even need actors with good teeth for this because they're going to be wearing masks through the whole thing. It's going to be great.
There's a part where the window is down in the car. They arrive on the scene and shit is going a little bad crazy. And I did that, yes. And I'm not ashamed. And the bats are going over the car, okay? And the window is down. And the whole time I'm like, hello? Fucking put the window up before the bats come inside the car. Like, it's the driver's side window. And then once the bats, they change the angle and the bats are finally over the car, they like pan back and that window's completely closed. Like, it's been closed the whole fucking time.
Yeah, so you can tell nobody was paying attention to continuity on this movie.
No. The bats creeping around, like closing in on people.
Yeah.
That also, they're like, what they're, not elbows, but what their wings.
Yeah, they look like they're like doing the army crawl across things when they're sneaking up on people. You're waiting for there to be like little things of barbed wire that they're crawling under while someone yells at them, "Move your badass!" And they're like crawling around on their elbows. Yeah.
They're like, surprise, bitch, here I am.
Yeah, the scene, what was it they did in the diner? They creeped up on someone. Oh yeah, the guy was like sleeping on the counter at the diner, and the bat was creeping up on him. He's just
and it was like clack, clack, clack.
Yeah, it was hilarious.
And guys, in case you didn't think it could go to a whole other level, there's also battle vision.
Yep, you get to see like predator vision, but it's bats sweeping down on people.
Battle vision, which I think also occurred in the Species movie. There was like alien vision at some point when she's like trying to get like her host or whatever, her mate.
And that's how you know they were out of ideas for that most recent Alien movie, Alien Covenant, because once they start with the alien vision...
Wow. You just had to you've been holding on to that since the movie, right? Because this is the first time I'm hearing this. You're like, and this is why.
That's just one reason that movie sucked. Like, I couldn't... I don't want to get started on that. There'd be a whole podcast of reasons why they were fucking idiots in that movie, but... Yeah, just one more reason than that. Like, once you see the alien vision, you're like, well, they're out of ideas.
In this film, they also have high-speed modems.
Yeah, they're very impressed by that. We'll use our high-speed modem to connect to the internet with our 6.5-inch screen on our Apple Mac.
And our fancy-ass tracking system.
Yeah, that looks like the fucking trackers from 1986 and Aliens, but not as nice.
Yeah, man. Yeah, but Texas, I don't know. I mean, I love Texas. Love you. Love Texas. Right? Is this movie in Texas?
Yeah, it is in Texas. And this is one of those tracking devices where you don't even understand how it fucking works because it just looks like a screen with a dot on it and they move it certain ways and it beeps. Like, how accurate can that be, you know?
I don't know. What about my favorite scene where Shad literally had the most comments for in the whole movie because he was just like throwing out all the facts, was the whole scene where they have to go into like the cave and they're swimming in bat dung.
Yeah, it's near the end of the movie when they locate the cave with all the thousands of mutated bats in it, and the army was going to lower a giant air conditioner into the bat cave and freeze them all to death. Okay. But then the bats attacked them, killed them all. So
it's the scene from Bram Stoker's Dracula. They're camping outside and they fucking get murdered.
Yeah. So then they decide we've got to activate this. Oh, but we've got to go down in the cave to do it, of course. Now, at this point, they could just throw explosives through the door of the cave, close it off, and kill all of them. No, they choose not to do that. They choose to put on what looked like the leftover suits from Outbreak, which I'm sure that's exactly what they were, and head down into the cave to kill the bats. Now, these bats have been here for maybe a week, and I grant you there's a lot of them. But when they fall through the floor of the cave and into the like bat guano, it's like chest high of bat piss and shit. Now, I realize there's a lot of bats in there, but could it really be like 5 feet deep after a week?
Now, okay.
That's a lot.
But to be fair, they were not eating their normal diet of like berries or whatever the fuck those things eat. They were eating like humans. So
yes.
Maybe it was just like, you know, their justice system couldn't handle like the whole human thing, and then they were just maybe they had diarrhea. They all 1,000 bats had diarrhea.
That much bat shit and piss in a cave, like those bats, because I've seen real documentaries about it, they piss like pure ammonia.
Oh yeah, you would not survive.
No. And of course the suits get ripped off of and they just splash through the guano like it's nothing. And
yeah, like it smells like fucking lilac.
They just come out of the fucking cave and they're like, woo, you smell. Yeah, now let's get in my truck and go get some breakfast.
While I lit this cigar, while I still have all the bat shit everywhere.
Yeah, like the highly flammable bat shit that's all over me. But yeah, like they're going to just go get in their truck and just go down and have breakfast at the Denny's, you know. First of all, even the fucking Denny's has standards. They're not going to let your bat shit covered ass in. You're going to be like, you can't be like that until at least 12:30 at night.
I don't think that town had Denny's. I think they had like Mom's Papa Shakalak or some shit.
Yeah, but what, it was just, I don't know, at that point you're like, come on. Just going, come on. And I love how they get down there, and when they get down to the bottom of the cave, they go, oh shit, do you have the key to turn this thing on? Oh, we got 2 minutes until the Air Force is going to fly over and firebomb the whole place, which would kind of solve the problem, wouldn't it? They had a lame thing about, oh, maybe some of the bats will get out of the cave. And then they do the exact same thing. They blow up the entrance to the cave later. So the whole thing was just a pile of shit. Literally. And I love the fact, too, that as soon as I saw it, I was like, well, there's the stock footage of airplanes flying over the desert. That's the whole reason this movie had to be in the desert, was because at the end of it, they had to reuse the Iron Eagle footage for the airplanes flying over. And that's exactly what they did.
This movie has a sequel, which we chose never to see, ever.
Yeah, this one's called Bats Human Harvest, I believe is the name of it, or something like that. And it's one of those ones you can tell where they were just trying to like capitalize on the little bit of success that one had, and it's like 9-10 years later, and you're like, why even bother at this point? But they gave it a shot, and this one's filmed like overseas. It's supposed to be like the Chechen rebels against American troops, and you're like, come on, this can't be a thing. But yep, it was a thing. But we chose not to watch that one because we inflicted enough pain on ourselves with the first Bats. We don't need to go into the second one too much.
Shad, where did we see this film?
I don't remember.
Was it on? I don't remember either. I can't remember. Maybe it was Vudu or Tubi?
No, I think it was Prime.
All right. Oh, yeah. You know what? It was Prime.
It was on Amazon Prime.
So we saw it on Prime. So if you want to catch out Bats, check it out on Prime.
Now, this movie's dumb, so I'm going to give it 2 knives just because I did have fun watching it. It's not a boring movie, it's just dumb. But I had fun watching it and making fun of the bats because, yeah, they tried to do the full Gremlins thing with them, and it just didn't work.
Can I say I give it 1.9 knives and 1 dropping of guano?
Yes, you can. That sounds completely appropriate.
Which equals 2 guano knives.
I'm not sure what the guano to knife ratio is, so we'll just let that go.
Thank you so much for joining us, and stay tuned to the horror.
And now, folks, it's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.